I had planned Sarah's situation for me to be interrogated by cops. Like, that was whole part of my plan, to make me look not guilty. We threw her off the bridge. The body never showed up. I choke her out, drag her. I pretty much hung her, and it took me a half an hour to kill her.
Once again, we are back with another true crime story. And today's kind of goes with the saying, you can never fully trust anyone. I'm just going to leave it at that, because this is like truly unbelievable. And the reason for it, ridiculous. They always are, but like ridiculous. Before I get into it, I do need to mention that there is going to be some talk about suicide. So if that isn't for you, then I don't recommend you carry on watching, and I will see you in the next one. But for those of you that are still interested, let's get into it. It's the early hours of December 3rd when the police get a call from an Uber driver. The Uber driver wanted to stay anonymous, so it's just going to be Uber driver. And the reason for this phone call was because as the Uber driver was driving over the Belmar Bridge on the Jersey Shore, they spotted a car parked on the side. Now, this isn't just like a regular road where you could just like park up. They're on a bridge, a long bridge, over a river. So it's a bit strange to see a parked car. On the phone he's asked, is there anybody in the car? And he said, no, I got out and checked. There's nobody in it. Now obviously this is, again, strange. So they send out a couple of officers just to go and check out the situation. When they get there, one of the police officers gets out of the car and starts shining their torch through the windows. They can see that there isn't anybody in the car, but there's still things in it. Like there's still like personal belongings, and also the keys are still in the ignition. So now the police are thinking, what has happened here? This is clearly something more than just a parked car. First thing the police do is run the license plate, as you do, and they found out that it actually belonged to a 96-year-old woman called Lillian Stern. They looked further into Lillian and found that she had a very large family. She had 15 children, 19 grandchildren, and 6 great-grandchildren. One of these grandchildren was a 19-year-old girl called Sarah Stern. And Sarah would use her grandmother's car quite often to just, go about her business. They then started taking a closer look into Sarah and found that it had been a rough few years for her. Only a few years prior, her mother passed away due to cancer, so it was just her and her father at this point. And at this point in time, her father was actually away in Florida, and he had been for a few weeks. And on the night that they found the car, she hadn't been responding to texts from her father. The last that her dad had actually heard from her was December 1st, when he texted her a picture of the Disney castle, and she responded by saying, wow, the castle looks so pretty with the lights, and that's all he got from her. It wasn't until the next night that he texted her again saying, are you up? And then when she didn't respond, he then texted her again saying, hello? And then when he still couldn't get a response from her, he kept texting her saying, your grandmother's trying to get hold of you. Why aren't you answering your phone? Why has it been turned off? Stuff like that. After finding this out, alarm bells. So the police went to her friends, her family, her neighbours, just to try and see if they knew anything. They first went to talk to her neighbours. They said that they had seen her when she called round to their house, asking them if they would be able to keep hold of some of her mother's personal items. Again, her mother died a few years ago, so these things are very, very near and dear to her, so why was she trying to pass them off to people? Again, alarm bells. Now they knew that they needed to start looking into what her mental state was like. So that night they called round to one of her lifelong friends' house, Liam McCatasney. They'd been friends since they were about 6 years old, so if anyone was to really know what was going on with Sarah, it would be Liam. One of the first things they asked him was, what was her mindset like when you last spoke to her? And he said, all I know was that she was trying to get out. She wanted to leave and go to Canada. Following on from that, they asked straight up, was she depressed? To which Liam responded by saying, her dad was crazy. I think the police were just looking for more of like a yes or no answer, but he just opened up a whole new can of worms by saying her dad is crazy. Now they wanted to speak to Liam again because, one, he's a lifelong friend, so that's their number one person to go to right now for any sort of information. But then also, what do you mean her dad is crazy? Is there anything in the family right now that would cause her to go and hurt herself? Or, like you said, she wanted to run away. Why? So a few days go by and they are finally sitting down with Liam again. And the first thing they ask him is, did she take any interest in any guys or any girls? And Liam responded by saying, I don't really know, but she was known to get very obsessed with girls, saying that when he was with one of his ex-girlfriends called Maggie, that Sarah was very obsessed with her and would often call Maggie saying, I'm gonna hurt myself if you don't come over. And apparently then at times she would also call Maggie saying, my dad's gonna hurt me or I'm gonna hurt myself. Apparently she didn't have a boyfriend, and Liam kind of had a bit of an inkling that Sarah was gay, and then he brought it back to, I don't know how her family would have responded if she had come out as gay. Liam was painting this picture of Sarah as somebody who's just very unreliable, like a flaky type of person that just was trying to rebel against her dad that she just didn't get along with, saying that she just couldn't hold a job, didn't really turn up for her classes, and all she was thinking about was just running away to Canada. And when he brought up Canada again, the first thing the investigators asked him was, is she in Canada? Trying to insinuate that they thought that he knew where she was or what had happened to her. But they didn't dive into it straight away. They just sprinkled in that question. Is she in Canada? Do you know where she is? They questioned Liam some more about Sarah and her father's relationship. And Liam just started talking about how they just really, really didn't get along. Saying that he wasn't sure if things ever got violent, but there was a lot of arguing. And that when her mother had died, she'd left quite a big inheritance for Sarah. But according to Liam, Sarah never saw any of it because her father had taken it all. He went on to say that when it came to her father, to everyone else he came across as this really nice, kind man, but there was a lot going on at home that people didn't know about. From what we know about this interview, it's kind of seeming like Liam's trying to push it in the direction that her dad might have had something to do with this. But her dad was in Florida and had been for weeks, like I said. So it's hard to place him at the scene if he was a plane journey away. At this point, the police aren't really looking at the dad for this because, again, he's in Florida. There's nothing in the vehicle that would place him there or shows anything about what could have happened to her. So they're not looking at the father at this point. And also, this should come as no shock or surprise to anybody watching, but the CCTV around the bridge wasn't working and hadn't been working for quite some time. So they have no video footage of anybody on the bridge because there's nothing to capture a video. Shock. There's only one bit of video footage that they have, and that is from a house opposite Sarah Stern's house. They had a camera pointed at the street, and the only bit of footage they have that show any sort of movement from Sarah was at 11:45 on December 2nd of her backing out of her driveway and driving off. That's all they have on Sarah. Liam admitted to being at Sarah's house that day, saying that he called her at about 1 to 2 p.m. asking her if she wanted to get some food, and he ended up going over and eating Taco Bell in her kitchen. He then said that he stayed there for a little bit and went up to her bedroom with her to start going through some of her stuff, her mother's stuff, and started putting them into boxes that she then took to her neighbours' houses and asked if they could take them in for her. Liam even admitted that he took some of the boxes home himself, saying that they were just in his basement right now. He said that after they were done sorting out the boxes, he then had to leave to go to work, which is shown in the camera footage from the neighbour's house opposite. This isn't much for the investigators to go on, because, like his story aligns with the camera footage. He left the house. And at this point, they see her leaving, they see her car leaving at 11:45 p.m. So to them, she's still moving about after Liam's gone. Following on from his story, the police then turn to him and say, we're going to give you the opportunity here to get ahead of all of this. If you know where she is or what would have happened to her, it's better for you to tell us now than for us to find out that you know later down the line. They asked again, is she in Canada, or did she leave to go to Canada? Did she jump off the bridge? To which he said, if she had told me that she was going to jump off the bridge that night, I wouldn't have been able to go to work. Then saying that he ended up having one of the best nights of his life that night at work, and that wouldn't have happened if he knew that one of his best friends was about to jump off a bridge. After denying knowing anything about her whereabouts or what could have happened to her, he then asked a kind of eerie question. He said, if she was to have jumped off the bridge or gone into the water, that would mean that her body's gone now, right? That's it's in the ocean somewhere. You could look at it from two different sides here. One could be a concerned friend, thinking, are we ever going to find her? But then also, it's a kind of sinister question. Is he trying to make sure that they're not going to find her? Trying to ask, she's gone, right? You're not going to find anything. Logically here, the water's taken her, right? You could look at it from two different ways. I'll leave you with it. They circled back to Sarah's inheritance. And Liam said then that on December 2nd, both him and Sarah went to the bank. Sarah went in, but Liam stayed in the car. They asked Liam why they went to the bank, because apparently her entire inheritance from her mother was taken by her father, so why were they at the bank? And he said that she'd found a key that she thought might have been from her mother for a safety box at the bank, that her mother might have just hidden somewhere for Sarah to find, knowing that her dad might do something with her inheritance, so kept it safely for Sarah, saying that it could have been anywhere between $20,000 to $100,000. But apparently the condition of this money wasn't the best. Apparently it was all just very old, all stuck together. Majority of it wasn't usable. Now her going to withdraw money from the bank, a lot of money from the bank, on the day that she went missing, first kind of indicated to the police that she disappeared on purpose. She wanted to go. This was her ticket to Canada. But there was one thing that kind of threw this off for the police. Her dog. Sarah was known to be in love with her dog. She loved her dog. But when they went to her house, they found that the door was unlocked and her dog was just left in the cage. Her dad's in Florida and he wasn't due back within the next day. So there was nobody there to feed the dog. This was not like her. She, like I said, loved her dog, so she wouldn't just abandon her dog like that. At this point, the police had questioned Liam a lot, so his parents decided to get him a lawyer and say that the police can't question him without his lawyer present. Again, you can look at it from a few angles. Kind of seems like you're talking to a guilty person, but at the same time, I'm sure his parents don't know that. They're just looking out for their son. But, whatever. The closer it gets to Christmas, the more and more the search is called off. Because, as Liam pointed out in his interview, or should I say, as Liam questioned in his interview, if she did jump into the water, or she was just in the water, wouldn't she be far gone by now? So the longer she'd been missing, the less likely it was that they were going to find her. So as it neared to Christmas Day, the search was called off completely. So it was kind of ruled either as a planned escape or a suicide. Christmas happens, New Year's happens, and we are now in January of 2017. Like I said, the search was called off and her disappearance was just unsolved. That was until a mutual friend of both Sarah and Liam speaks up. A guy called Anthony Curry. Anthony told a story of how only a few weeks before the disappearance of Sarah, he spent Thanksgiving with Liam. And one thing to know about Anthony is that he was an aspiring filmmaker. So on Thanksgiving, Liam told Anthony an idea he had for a movie, that they kill a girl for her money and throw her body off a bridge. To Anthony, this just seemed like a plot of a movie, like Liam had said it was. But it wasn't until everything about Sarah came out that Anthony started to piece things together. It was all sounding a little too familiar. That a girl finds out about her inheritance, she goes missing, and her car is found on a bridge. So now obviously the police want to look into this, because not only does it sound a little too familiar for Anthony, it's also piecing up for the police. But at this point, it's just what Anthony's saying. They need to hear it from Liam himself to be able to create a case. So what they need now is for Anthony to arrange to meet up with Liam. Anthony contacts Liam through Snapchat, saying that he was filming something for a movie and his camera fell into a pot of blood, and that he was hoping he could borrow some of the money that he got from that girl to replace the camera. Now obviously this phone call through Snapchat was staged and the police were recording it. They didn't just leave Anthony to go and message him and meet up with him. Obviously Anthony brings up on the phone call that girl. Obviously Liam knew what Anthony meant by that girl, and then sent Anthony a message saying, "You understand how serious my situation is right now. Like, I can't say anything over the phone." Saying, "I'm not trying to be a D-head right now, but I need to just tell you this in person." Perfect. He wants to meet up. That's exactly what the police want, because they were planning to secretly record the conversation between Liam and Anthony. And first thing Liam does when he gets into the car with Anthony is check Anthony for wires. He was like, "You understand I'm not doing this because I don't trust you," that type of stuff. He was just making sure that there was nobody listening. But there was, just, it wasn't wired to Anthony. Liam doesn't hesitate to start telling Anthony exactly what happened. As soon as he sees that Anthony isn't wearing a wire, he immediately trusts Anthony. Little does he know there's a tiny little camera in the car recording his face. They one-upped him, you might say. Anyway, he first starts by saying he'd planned this for quite a while, and that there was a slight problem when her body didn't show up. Anthony responds by saying, "Yeah, it's probably frozen." And then Liam really quickly jumps in by saying, "It's probably way out in the ocean," bringing us back to that very suspicious question that he asked while he was being interviewed by the police. The one that just came out of nowhere. We knew it was suspicious at the time. Now it's all starting to make sense. He said that it was all part of his plan to be interrogated by the police. He needed them to interrogate him just so that he could make it look like he was innocent. Just like somebody like, "Oh, she was my best friend and I have no idea what happened to her." That was all part of his plan. It seems like his plan kind of worked to begin with, because he did manage to throw the police off a little bit, because it went cold for nearly a month, with everyone just thinking that she must have either run away or did something to hurt herself. But let's go back to this very moment he's in the car with Anthony. Liam then goes on to detail how the murder goes down.
We went to the bank. She took some money out, not all of her money. We're counting it out, and then she goes to walk out the front door. I choke her out, drag her. My biggest problem was the dog, and her dog laid there and watched as I killed her. Didn't do anything.
And something so disturbing about this was that he timed himself. He got his phone and started a stopwatch to see how long it would take him to kill her. And it took him half an hour, 30 minutes to kill her. After killing her, he then had to rush off to go to work. Just a normal activity to do before work, isn't it? While he was at work, obviously he was panicking because he couldn't find his phone. So he left work quite a few times. I didn't know you could just leave work like that to go home. But anyway, he left work a few times to go back to the house to keep searching for the phone, but he couldn't find it. Something Liam mentioned whilst talking to Anthony was that he didn't do this alone. Another one of his and Sarah's mutual friends was his accomplice, a guy called Preston Taylor. Again, a very close friend of Sarah, so much so that he even took her to the prom.
I choke her out, drag her into the back, put her in a bathroom, and then I had to go straight to work. So Preston came over, took the body, put it in the bushes, and then I was at work. I left work a couple times, which looks sketchy. I look for my phone though, which is a reasonable thing to do.
Yeah, you gotta look for your phone. Yeah, you can't.
Which is kind of like me losing my phone was kind of a good thing, because the cops are like, "Oh, he's hanging out with her. He lost his phone. He's going back and forth between his house looking for it." And then I get off work that night, go straight over, then we take her body out of the bushes and drag it over to her back fence, and I crawl, get into her car, and I back up. There's a security camera across the street, so I had to act like her. I got up on top of the bridge to throw her off. My plan was I was going to throw her off run over, jump over the divider, and get into Preston's car. And then cars start coming up. I see, like, headlights coming. I try to get her over, and I can't. The worst part of it is, I thought I was walking out 50 grand, 100 grand in my pocket. She had one safe, and she took money out, and she only had 10 grand. And this money, I don't know if it was burnt or something. It's fucking old money, terrible quality.
I didn't even get a quarter of it. So we only got like, what, 7 grand or something?
Now they have proof that Liam was the one responsible. You know, they have his confession on camera. That is literally all they need. So now it's February 1st, the next day, and they bring both Liam and Preston in for questioning. Firstly, they speak to Preston. They said, we don't really want to know what happened because we pretty much already know. We want to know why Liam did what he did. First thing Preston says is, what did he do? Police weren't taking this. They just went, he killed Sarah. And you know this. We know you know this. And Preston immediately said, okay, yes. It did not take much for him to just tell the police everything. They questioned whether Preston knew that Liam was going to do this or if he just got in on it at the last second. And Preston said that he'd been planning this for about a month. A few months before the plan was put in place, Liam had gone to Preston and told him that he just found out that Sarah had been left quite a big inheritance and that he was interested in getting a little taster of it. But that's all he said, until a month before she disappeared, when he started piecing a plan together. Preston told the police that he was the one that moved the body after Liam had put her in the back bathroom, and then he went home to a place that he shared with Liam and waited for Liam to finish work so that they could carry on with their plan. He was asked what Liam was like when he came home, and Preston described him as frantic. Preston said that after they disposed of her body into the river, that they just drove away because now they have what they want. They have her money. These two people were willing to do anything and everything for money. Like literally killing someone. But then also when he was talking to Anthony in the car, Liam said that both him and Preston had robbed a drug dealer that night. Like this wasn't just a one-off. Like they were so unbelievable, some might say, that they were willing to murder someone and rob someone for a little bit of money. And it wasn't like they needed this money for anything serious, because when they got her money and drove away, they used some of it to buy weed. You killed someone for some weed. You killed your best friend for a few $1,000s. You took someone's life for material stuff. We're now going to go forward a couple of months to April 2017, where both Liam and Preston were both charged with felony murder in the first degree. Preston pleaded guilty to robbery and conspiracy to commit robbery, decimating Sarah Stern's remains, and conspiring to desecrate her remains. And following this, he was then sentenced to 18 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after serving 15 years and 3 months. This is in exchange for his testimony against Liam. After Preston was sentenced, he made a statement in front of the whole courtroom, saying that he is so sorry from the bottom of his heart. But when it came to Liam, he showed no remorse, still trying to make it seem like he didn't do anything, and that the video they have of him confessing to Anthony was just him describing the plot of a movie. No. You can't get away with saying that. Not with all the evidence that has come forward here. Did you really think that was going to work? Because it didn't. They looked into a little part of the video that Anthony had recorded of Liam, where he said that you think you're going to do these things in life and they're going to change you. But after he did what he did, he felt nothing. His life hadn't changed, and he felt the same. This 19-year-old boy did not care what he had done. He just took someone's life, and he doesn't care. Liam kept saying that the video wasn't as it seemed, because there was little to no evidence. Little bit of evidence that they had was his confession, so he was trying to backtrack on that to make it seem unusable. But little did he know that his phone that he lost was actually found in Sarah's front garden, found by her family, and they found that the stopwatch that he had started was started at 4:15 p.m. That's around about the time that it would have happened before he had to rush off to work. They also found the money that they took, because they had taken it kept it in the safety box, and buried it at the park, which the police then found, because Preston told them exactly where it was. They also found the walkie-talkies that they were using. They found a lot of evidence that Liam didn't know they had. So his backtracking just made him look worse. And obviously because this was his trial, there was a jury present. And him lying and then being found out with all the evidence just made him look 10 times worse to the jury. So they found him guilty of first-degree murder, first-degree robbery, first-degree felony murder, second-degree conspiracy to commit robbery, second-degree disturbing or desecrating human remains, third-degree hindering, and fourth-degree tampering with physical evidence. And he was sentenced to life behind bars without the possibility of parole. He's gone forever. And this is all because he wanted his best friend's money, which he ended up having very little of, meaning that he killed someone for only a few $1,000s. Like I said at the start of this video, this kind of backs that saying that you can never really trust anyone. Because never in a million years would you think that your lifelong friend, or friends, would kill you for money, for a little bit of money. Obviously a few $1,000s isn't a little bit of money, but to kill someone for a few $1,000s makes that amount of money seem very minor. Anyway, I will be back next week with a brand new true crime story, and I hope I will see you there.